This is Will Nunziata, and I'm thrilled to be speaking today with acclaimed composer, pianist, video artist, curator. He does it all, Mr. Brian Mark. How are you?
Good. How are you, Will?
Well, I'm doing so much better now that we are finally meeting. We were talking off camera. Our paths crossed more than a decade ago. We were supposed to probably work together when I was in my singing days. But what I'm so excited about, Brian, is that the audience just got a little sneak peek of another talent that you have, which is, as a video artist, specifically video installation. It was of your original piece that you composed called Contact for 3 Percussion. Talk to me a little bit about it.
Yeah. So that piece, actually, it wasn't originally called Contact. It was when I was doing my PhD in London, I wrote a piece for solo percussion, but then I had to write solo percussion, and it was in 2 movements called Chaos, Control, and it was a disaster. It was done in 2012, and then in 2020 during the pandemic, I did some online music festivals. So I did the Solo Percussion Institute, a very famous percussion group in the new music scene, and they're amazing. And I looked at that piece from 2012, and I took the first movement, and then I just revised it, and I guess, I don't know, just came together, and I wanted to, I was thinking about sort of space exploration, so I called it Contact. And it's based on a NASA video from 1961. I don't know the exact title, but it is in my the description from YouTube. And I sort of edited, that first movement that was called, I think it was called Control. And then I renamed it Contact because I was using the video installation that I created and made a whole art, thing about the NASA space video from 1961. I mean, and some people who watch it said that, yeah, I see a little bit of Stanley Kubrick in it. And I love that because I do like Stanley Kubrick. So.
Oh, I love Stanley Kubrick as well, my friend. And what I also love about you, Brian, is that you have somehow throughout your career, it's like I'm kind of looking at the segments of your career and how they're all finally like coming all together. As a pianist, as a composer, as a video artist, as a curator, that through something like video installation, it looks like it's almost combining each of these tools in your tool belt all in one.
Yeah, I mean, I see. It's interesting you say that because I studied film music, and I did do the USC film scoring program. It's a great program. I mean, again, I did it in 2002, 2003. It might be a lot different now. I didn't stay in Los Angeles. I still love film music, and I just, after that, I went to San Francisco and then New York, where you and I emailed at one point before I went to London. And I fell into video installation. I believe it was in London in 2017. My first video installation was for members of the London Symphony Orchestra, and it was premiered at the LSO St. Luke's in May of 2017. And I got into that because I got Final Cut Pro, and it just felt very natural for me. Instead of music writing for film, I'm taking film footage and creating it for music, and it just felt very natural. And I just started doing that 4.5 years ago, and I've just been continuing on. Right. But it is right that things do come together because everything that we do is, anything in life as an artist, all is from our past experiences. You're right. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And going to your past, it's like you were reading my questions, my friend. I want to know, Brian, where were you born and when did you realize that you had a love of music?
I was born in Port Jefferson, Long Island, 1970. Sorry, I'm not going to say my name. Out, please. That's all right. So I was born in Long Island, and I believe I just started, I guess I always loved listening to music when I was little. I remember Hooked on Classics. I remember my mom had that LP, and I just remember that. And I really grew up, I don't know about you, but I grew up loving, I just grew up loving Broadway, but also like I was an 80s kid. I love the 80s new wave, the decadent era. I mean, to me, I still like when I listen to 80s music, I still feel like it just warms my heart. And then I just remember in 1986, my mom bought a piano, and I also learned clarinet at the same time. And I just started taking piano and clarinet lessons. My sister, 2 sisters, one of them took piano lessons. The other was a flutist for just very briefly, but I just continued on. I just, my piano skills, I was very determined. I guess I was very serious. And so that it just ended from there that I was doing New York State NISMA, New York State Student Music, like all those competitions. And I guess I kept going on. But I guess, you know, when I was little, I've always known I wanted to do something with music. I always felt that, you know, like music spoke to me and I wanted to speak to the world about music. Does that make sense?
Oh my God, absolutely, my friend. And I'm so excited that, again, the audience just got a sneak peek of your talent, but I want to remind our audience for more on the amazing Brian Mark. You can read more about him right below this video. Brian, I could speak with you forever, but final question for you. Obviously, these past 18 months have been tough for all humans, but especially artists. I'm curious to know, A, what you were able to do during the pandemic to kind of keep your creative juices flowing. And if you were able to create new things, what can we expect and when? And then two, what you're most optimistic about performing live again as things start to open up fully.
Yeah, so when COVID hit, it's interesting because I'll try to be as fast as I can. I did write a brass quintet piece for
Take your time, my friend, don't worry.
Yeah, for a trombonist, and that piece, not that it was, it still needs revision. And it was right before COVID. I was supposed to fly to Madison, and then he just said, you know, Brian, he's like, why don't you just write a delay pedal piece? Because I've written a lot of music with delay pedals, which your audience can see. And I just looked outside my window. You can see the Statue of Liberty. And I wrote a piece called, based on the 11th verse from the famous poem, The New Colossus, Your Huddled Masses Yearning to Breathe Free, for solo trombone and delay pedal. And then I created a video installation. And you know, humbly, like, we won the Mosaic Philanthropy Prize. I mean, 1,100 applications and 10 people were picked for the top 10 prizes. You know, that was great. And then, like I said, about Contact, summer 2020, I attended 3 online music festivals, and I wrote 2 new pieces. And then obviously into 2021, I was doing virtual concerts, doing some video installations of other composers. And then I got the Brooklyn Arts Council grant, of which we just had a concert at the Old Stone House of Brooklyn last Sunday, October 17th. And this was it's my second time working with a choreographer. So I wrote a new piece called The Illusion of Separateness for violin, loop station, and delay pedal. That was done in Ableton Live. I'm sure some of your audience know what Ableton Live is, and choreography. So that was just done last Sunday, which I'm very excited about. Projects that are coming up, I want to produce my first album. So I'm working with a vocalist and a harpist for 2 separate pieces. The vocalist, it's based on a poem that Elizabeth I wrote when she was in prison in the Tower of London from her sister, I believe it's Queen Mary. If you haven't seen the movie Elizabeth, like that movie Elizabeth with Kate Blanchett's really influenced my love of British history and Elizabeth I. So there was a poem that she wrote called No Crook Leg, No Bleared Eye. And then the harp piece that I'm writing is based on an installation by an artist named Mana Hatoum, who's based in London. It's called Impenetrable. It was shown at the Guggenheim in 2013 to 2014. And I don't want to say too much because your audience can research it, but I'm actually speaking with her via Zoom on Tuesday. So basically, I'm finishing these 2 pieces to create an album of 10 years of works with like the delay pedal from 2011 to 2021, because my first piece for delay pedal was done in London, actually. So I'm just trying to, you know, create my first album of just a collection of works in this sort of aesthetic. And then I'm actually also have a premiere with a Fresh Squeezed Opera. Well, excuse me, it's not a premiere. It's the second performance of a piece called Harlem, A Dream Deferred, which I was going to tell you about. I know you have to get other people, but that piece was commissioned by the Astoria Music Project. And it's sort of a very Broadway-esque piece. It's like an
Talk to me about it, my friend. Talk to me. Do not worry. Take your time.
So Harlem, A Dream Deferred. I have 2 more performances coming up, and that piece is literally like it's an art song Broadway-esque piece. It's based on Langston Hughes' poem, Harlem, A Dream Deferred.
Oh my
God. And it's sort of basically, it just has that emphasis of New York when New York was grittier. You know what I mean? When it was just more hungrier for, I worked from the 50s and 60s to 70s. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Now, when
I don't, you know, that's a whole nother conversation, but I feel, you know, some people believe like, is New York the same? You know, some people feel that it's very gentrified now and it's very, you know, but that piece is really about the history of New York when, you know, people fought for things. And
yeah, right. Brian, listen, I could speak with you forever. We will continue this conversation offline, but again, I want to let our audience know, for more on the incredible Renaissance man, dare I say, Brian Mark, you can read more about him right below this video. Brian, God bless you. Thank you so much for your time today. And I'm glad that we have finally, a decade later, officially, through FENIX, reconnected.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much, Will. Thank you for this opportunity.